Today is Friday, August 10th, 2018. Get ready for the Emerging Sea Broadcast System, the Forbidden History Series, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. Time to call your friends. We now interrupt your normally scheduled programming to bring you this very important deprogramming program. And special thanks to YouTube.com for hosting the Forbidden History Series. Please note that the following views and the opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, YouTube.com, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society, and nothing here is ever to be construed as medical, hate, nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time, 7 days a week, right here on the realpublicradio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here, coming your way twice a day, 7 days a week at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. Stand by for the broadcast. And good morning, Teresa. Good to have you. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Central Ohio and the heart of Amish country and Free America Radio Network, in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares. It's the Forbidden History Series, the great lies of history, the ABCs of light, the duality revealed in nature, patterns and pictures, symbolism, book and movie reviews, the words that killed, the piracy of words. Yeah, it's a big mountain to climb, I know. But we are the deprogramming program. It's what they didn't want you to know that we tell right here. It's the battle for the mind, ladies and gentlemen. It is the battle for the mind. And the truth, it's light. It allows you to see, but ignorance is darkness. And there's clouds all around you. And these are the great antagonists, the one against the other. But once we can begin to comprehend the true nature of things as they really are, then we can begin to comprehend that there is nothing more to complain about. Just know that we don't have to eat crow anymore, okay? And if you don't know where you're going, well, then any road will get you there. And that's a hard way to go. And the best way to go is to identify the truth by identifying all of the great lies of history. The Caesar philosopher from the movie Gladiator said, in the future, men will have to be bilingual. I guess he knew something. Because it's easier to lie to people than it is to convince them that they have been lied to. Well, let's break the spell right now today, ladies and gentlemen. Still time to call your friends. And I hope that you're all doing well out there. We're going to do a special presentation on the duality revealed in nature and patterns and pictures today. Picking it up from yesterday morning. Major revelation. And welcome to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Desert Owl, a bird who sees in the night. And it's a very, very dark world. It's getting worse. We're even being clouded now around the entire globe by dust from the Sahara. When did that ever happen before? The electronic um, energy from, I guess, the incoming binary star system is having an effect. Mars is totally enshrouded in a dust storm, so it looks like we're getting the same thing. So it seems to be in our neighborhood. And what are we going to do about it? Well, we just have to we have to recognize that this is not our planet. That's the good news, and that we are strangers and pilgrims in a foreign land, and it's run by a bunch of psychopathic, insane narcissists that are on a power trip and are pretty happy with their temporary party. They don't see the end of the road. They just think, well, I'm just a piece of amoeba that's just here today, gone tomorrow. But they don't get that they are an eternal being, and that there's more to the story. And but of course they took their blood oaths. They ate flesh of man, and they therefore I guess in that sense, maybe they can never come back. And that's very tragic. I don't know what it would be like, to drink blood or eat somebody's flesh, but it's got to be a very warping to the soul and to the mind. And so yeah. Okay, so don't forget, if you want to call in, if you have a great life history or a word that they killed us with, then you can call in. Okay, that's 608-566-7295. 608-566-7295. And or if you have a comment or a question, we're just here to serve. All right, and love to hear from you. And then if you want to get a copy of the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary, 300 pages, 8.5 by 11. It's like it's an encyclopedia. It's 3 or 4 dictionaries in one. It's a compendium. It's a mix mash because I'm very complicated, and therefore I can't just do one thing. I've always multitasked. Like when I read books, I read 12 books at a time, and I covered a lot of ground. So I put a lot in here from the spiritual, the words that they killed us with, the political, the legal. All of these elements are in there to show the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, how he's been pulling the strings. So we can expose deception on any front, because it's so vast and it's so profound. So before I get to the duality revealed in nature and patterns and pictures, getting back with the name of Esau. Good morning, Ninja. Good to have you. Before I do that, that's a major revelation from yesterday morning, and I just started to do the presentation and decoded it right there on the program. Don't remember ever having done that, but once I brought it back to the original Indo-Germanic Aramaic root and destroyed the code, revealed the code, and then erased the code and put the correct letters in there. All of a sudden, it was a major revelation, and so stand by for that. But I'm allowing for a little time for more friends to come on, and I'll just do a little song and dance here real quick. Okay, so I want to get back to let me see here. I'm looking at my cards. Okay, put them up there. So, and I want to welcome any new listeners that are out there coming in. Okay, always glad to have new friends stopping by, and I know it's a little challenging to sometimes wrap your minds around what is the Indo-Germanic and what's this code all about and all that. So you just have to. The best thing to do is to go back on to the beginning of the trail, because in the first 2 weeks I unloaded most of the things that people are not talking about, very relevant to our presentation here. So that started on June 1st, 2018. So if you go back to June 1st, you can work your way through, and while you're listening to the current programming, and that's going to help you, because I revealed a lot of the misconceptions and the deceptions that have affected us within our scriptures, within our political world, within our the legal, all of that. So it's big. They've been doing it for thousands of years. Go figure, right? Okay, and so while we're waiting for a few friends, I don't want to do the main feature here just yet, because I know a few more friends are going to be popping on. So let me just hold that for a minute. I'm going to get into a short read with psychopolitics. Okay, and let me see. Yeah, that's not too much. Okay, so this is in the book, The Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary. It's a synthesis on the Soviet textbook of psychopolitics, a preview. Chapter 1, The History and Definition of Psychopolitics. Although punishment for its own sake may not be entirely without recompense, it is nevertheless true that the end and goal of all punishment is the indoctrination of the person being punished with an idea, whether that idea be one of restraint or obedience. In that, any ruler has, from time beyond memory, needed the obedience of his subject in order to accomplish his ends. He has thus resorted to punishment. This is true of every tribe and state in the history of man. Today, Russian culture has evolved more certain and definite methods of aligning and securing the loyalties of persons and populace, and of enforcing obedience upon them. Well, it's interesting. It only said Russian here. It should. How about let's include America and basically any of the other, political states. This modern outgrowth of old practice is called psychopolitics. The stupidity and narrowness of nations not blessed with Russian reasoning has caused them to rely upon practices which are today too ancient and outmoded for the rapid and heroic pace of our time. And in view of the tremendous advance of Russian culture in the field of mental technologies, begun with the glorious work of Pavlov and carried forward so ably by later Russians, it would be strange that an art and science would not evolve totally devoted to the aligning of loyalties and extracting the obedience of individuals and multitudes. Thus we see that psychopolitical procedures are a natural outgrowth of practices as old as man, practices which are current in every group of men throughout the world. Thus, in psychopolitical procedures, there is no ethical problem, since it is obvious and evident that man is always coerced against his will to the greater good of the state, whether by economic gains or indoctrination into the wishes and desires of the state. Basically, man is an animal. Actually, he's not, but that's the implication of this writing here. He is an animal. That's the dual nature, of course. So that's the lower passion. That's the lower creature, which has been a civilized veneer and is a collective animal grouped together for his own protection before the threat of the environment. Those who so group and control him must have in their possession specialized techniques to direct the vagaries and energies of the animal man towards greater efficiency in the accomplishment of the goal of the state. Psychopolitics, in one form or another, have long been used in Russia, but the subject / America, but the subject is all but unknown outside the borders of our nation. At least that's what this writer was thinking, because he was also in a bubble, save only where we have carefully transplanted our information and where it is used for the greater good of the nation. And before I turn the page, I just want to read this quote by Robert F. Kennedy. I've read in the past. And good morning, Lynn. Good to have you. And John Lynch, welcome to our broadcast. Okay. Good to have you. I don't think you've been on our program, or at least on the chat. You may have been listening in. Here's a quote by Robert F. Kennedy. I found out about something that I never knew before. I found out that my world was not the real world. And that was written just before he was assassinated running for president in 1968. The definition of psychopolitics follows. Psychopolitics is the art and science of asserting and maintaining dominion over the thoughts and loyalties of the individuals, officers, bureaus, bureaucrats, and masses, and the affecting of the conquest of the enemy nation through mental healing. Mental healing. Don't worry, we're going to take care of you. Put you in a mental hospital. The subject of psychopolitics breaks down into several categories. And by the way, don't ever sign anything, okay? If you don't want to be there, don't ever sign anything. They need your signature. You have to sell yourself out, okay? Unless you want to be there, but if you don't want to be there, why do they call you a client? Okay, when you get an attorney, it means non compos mentis. Well, when you go to the mental hospital, they got in big, bold letters right on there, client. Client, they want you to sign in as a client, meaning you're not mentally competent, therefore don't worry, we'll take care of you. The subject of psychopolitics, yeah, they'll take care of you. They'll drug you and they'll shock treatment you and give you shock therapy, and you'll never be the same. You'll get on disability. The subject of psychopolitics breaks down into several categories, each a natural and logical proceeding from the last. Its first subject is the constitution of anatomy of man. Its first subject is the constitution and anatomy of man himself as a political organism. Well, geez, I'm not a political organism. I'm not interested in politics. The next is an examination of man as an economic organism. I'm not into commerce either, okay? As this might be controlled by his desires. See, this is all for the slaves, you see? The next is classification of state goals for the individual and masses. The next is an examination of loyalties. The next is the general subject of obedience. The next is the anatomy of the stimulus response mechanisms of man. Smells, taste, touch, visual. The next is the subjects of. The next is he subjects. The next is he subjects. Okay, there's some word anomaly here. Let me try this again. The next is that he is the subject of shock and endurance. The next is categories of experience. The next is the catalyzing and aligning of experience. The next is the use of drugs. The next is the use of implantation. The next is the general application of psychopolitics within Russia. Of course, those first experiences, that he was referring to would be like, sit here, go there, don't do this, or we'll punish you. We'll put you in the hole for 30 days. We'll, have some special treatment for you. And that's the training. The next is the organizations outside Russia, their composition and activity. The next is the creation of slave philosophy in a hostile nation. The next is countering anti-psychological activities abroad. And the final one, the destiny of psychopolitical rule in a scientific age. To this might be added many subcategories, such as the nullification of modern weapons by psychopolitical activity. The strength and power of psychopolitics cannot be overestimated, particularly when used in a nation decayed by pseudo-intellectualism, where exploitation of the masses combines readily with psychopolitical actions, and particularly where the greed of capitalistic or monarchical regimes have already brought about an overwhelming incidence of neurosis, which can be employed as the groundwork for psychopolitical action and psychopolitical cores. It is part of your mission, student, to prevent psychopolitical. So this would have been the the manual that they were using, to train their order takers, the Gestapo, you know what I mean? So yeah, this was their training manual apparently. So it is part of your mission, student, to prevent psychopolitical activity to the detriment of the Russian state. Well, when he's saying prevent, I'm a little, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe this guy was writing it for the purpose of exposing it. Could be. Let me try this again. It is in part your mission, student, to prevent psychopolitical activity to the detriment of the Russian state, just as it is your mission to carry forward in our nation and outside of it, if you are so assigned, the missions and goals of psychopolitics. Well, if they're carrying out the goals, I guess this is the the bad guy's handbook. No agent of Russia could even be remotely effective without a thorough grounding in psychopolitics. And so you carry forward with your Russian trust to use well what you are learning here. Okay, so that's just a sample out of the book, a synthesis of the Soviet textbook on psychopolitics. Okay, that was the history and definition of psychopolitics. So the book is called Brainwashing. It's called Brainwashing, a synthesis of a Russian textbook, of the Soviet textbook on psychopolitics. Okay, so it's online. I think you can get a free PDF download. Well, that's true. If you're against that New World Order, you're considered mentally ill. Don't worry, they've got a place for you, of course. So anyway, and want to welcome again any new listeners that are listening in online, and so I've got a really profound revelation that came yesterday by virtue of revealing the original root spelling of Esau, which obviously you can look at the word Esau and you know it's a funny spelling. But before I get there, I just want to back up on the graphic here, because you see I've got a very interesting graphic on the display today on the YouTube monitor, and it looks like Mitzrayim, which is falsely called Egypt. It's Mitzrayim, and if you want to see it later, if you want to check it out later, in the bigger graphic, because this is a little cut in half. There's more at the top, and it's easier to see it on the website. You can later on go to therealpublicradio.net/n as in Nancy .html. That's therealpublicradio.net/n.html. Okay, and then there's also a free download at the very bottom of that page for a gentleman who obviously got wind that the letter N was significant. I never read that book actually, but it was given to me by a friend who knew him, and so I saw that the guy was onto something, so I just posted it there. I've yet to read it, and I was thinking today, gee, I need to read that, because maybe more to the story here that guy saw. But the N is a royal symbol in what it is conveying. Okay, because I did a presentation yesterday a little bit on it, and I'm just taking a note here. So Napoleon, there you see Napoleon actually has the N right in his name, right? Na means that which came down. Then we hear the word Polyon. Napoleon. There's Apollyon right there. Remember it talked about in Revelations Apollo and all that. So NAP, because there in the movie. I don't remember the name of the movie specifically, but it had Napoleon in there, how he conquered all of Europe, okay? And he had a chair that he sat in, and in the back of his chair he had a circle with the capital N in it, just like you see right here in this Mitzrayim/Egyptian relief with a crown on it. Look, at the N has a crown on it. Is that not telling you something? Absolutely, Lynn. So Napoleon, and then there's other instances when you're going to see the N being used, because it's a secret code. In fact, it's actually Aleph. If you look at the Yiddish Hebrew Aleph, it's a take on the letter N. You can see it, you know, if you get, you know, you can get the picture by looking at it. And above is the fire, below is the water, but it creates the image of an N in its shape because it's got the slash between the fire and the water in the Aleph in the Yiddish Hebrew. And then we find it in the middle of the alphabet, right next to the letter M, and then we find it at the end of the alphabet in the letter Z, Z, okay? Z, tip over to letter N, 90 degrees, you get the letter Z. So what it means in this occultic theme is that they were at the beginning, they're in the middle, and they're at the end, okay? They've been with us throughout recorded history, the ancient fallen Vekoresh watchers, the fallen ones, and they took up shop in India, and then they, you know, used at the time Mitzrayim, falsely called Egypt, as their front office to build the pyramid civilizations around the world. Just like today, the Vatican is now their front office. It was Mitzrayim back then. So as I pointed out yesterday, I believe it was yesterday on this issue on the letter N, the duality. I was talking about how the letter M, you know, the letter which is right next to N, is a split, and therefore I gave you some words, you know, to look at, like man, M-A-N-N, which is the correct spelling, and we find it in the German. There's two N's, and then it has to do with harvest. If you put the A at the other end, it's Anna, and the two N's are in the middle, and Anna means harvest, and it's a perfect anagram. You read it forward and backward. And so then in moon, we see it's a real code, because the M, as I said, is two N's. It's split, but look in the middle. You got moon. You got two zeros. You got two circles. Okay, and that's symbolic of sun and moon. So what it means is two powers. So the letter N signifies a power, and it's the divided power, the light and the darkness, the yin and the yang, the hot and the cold. So it's the duality, the male female, and that's why there should be two N's graphically, because it creates an image on the mind. And yeah, absolutely, Lynn. Like I said, your last name is rather interesting. Okay, so what I realized I should have included with the presentation was the word noon. So if you write down the word noon, well, there it's really talking. Okay, now it's telling a story, and because I've shared this with you, you're able to get a picture that you've never had before, because you got an N on noon, and high noon is what? High noon is like the apex of light. It is the moment of the ultimate projection of light and power on the earth. And in fact, within Yeshua, in the metaphor, we are always at high noon. We're always at high noon in Yeshua, because he's there the moment we need him, in the emergency, or in the the moment of need. He's there. He's always there as a symbol of judgment, and he's there to be our arbiter at any moment. So we're always at high noon in Yeshua. The sun going around is just the illusion of time, right? Well, we are already on the eternal realm, at the threshold of eternity, in the spiritual nature of the Mashiach, Yeshua. So literally, noon is telling you that there are two powers, and one is the false, and one is the true. Two powers come down, the opposites, the male, female, the yin and the yang, the light and the darkness, the sun and the moon. Sun and moon are the primary elements. And so I just wanted you to see a little bit more of this, because I wanted to do is complete a job of conveying it, and I realized the word noon. So you see that the O's are symbols. They're circles. And what do they primarily represent? Sun and moon. And they can also represent the earth depending upon the word or the setting that we're dealing with. But there it is. That's a power symbol. The Kabbalists and the occultists all get the picture. They all know this stuff, all right? And noon also makes a perfect anagram, forward and backward. And then the O's are twins with the letter A. And so out of noon, you can create the word by just rearranging the letters Anna. Put the N's in the middle and on the A on each end, and you get Anna. And Anna means harvest. That's what the word anagram means. Anagram means the harvest of words. Word harvesting, because that's what we're doing here. We are word harvesting. We are plowing the field, and we are getting the great mystery unfolded of the shavors, the words. The rain is coming down, the shavor, the word, the flaming sword, the logo, all within shavor, okay? And as well as Savior, the shavors, the sword, okay? So this is this is foundational, okay? Because if you can get these pictures, then you've got something here. And John says, well, let me start with Napoleon, who said, quote, "Give me 100,000 Croatian soldiers and I will conquer all the world." Right? Yeah. Well, he was apparently doing the Jesuit bidding, and then he sold out his own people, and abandoned them. He abandoned about 100,000 Frenchmen, or 50,000. I don't know the number, but it was a big number of the French he abandoned in Russia after they walked all the way over there. Then he abandoned them on horseback, and because they didn't want to come back. There was a depopulation program. That's what Montesquieu said right at that time, right around that period in the 1700s, I guess just before Napoleon's action. I'm not sure about that timeline, but I think it was just before. And Montesquieu said in his book called The Spirit of the Law, for the last 2,000 years, every war that has done nothing other than to serve as a depopulation program. It's always been a depopulation program, or a political program where they had to get rid of certain people because they were a problem. Okay, so there's your letter N, ladies and gentlemen, and yeah, okay, that's foundational. So I hope that'll help open up the other words for you, the shavors. Now let's get into what we talked about yesterday with Esau. Okay, and I'm just going to do my primer here for any new listeners we have online today. Okay, the duality in nature and patterns and pictures. Okay, it's a continuing discussion on how that which is false has taken over that which is true. Okay, Israel, Israel, correctly, was banished from their own land in 730 BC. They were annihilated by Yahweh in 730 BC. Israel was out of there, and they replaced them with foreigners from Babylon, Nineveh, and various regions of Mesopotamia. Assyrians, basically, the Assyrians moved in, and then they adopted the customs of Israel because they didn't want to offend the God Yahweh, and or the great Elohim, correctly. So this is not being talked about. It's amazing, because I just read my scriptures again, going through the Farrar Fenton translation, and there it was, and he puts the timeline in there, which is so fantastic. So the scripture tells us that it was a given. It was a given that our pure tradition would be hijacked by the occult, and only a remnant remains. Okay, our tradition, and so we get the remnant. You know what a remnant is, right? It's like you got a mile of carpet, and all of a sudden, all you got left is a remnant yard, right? It's all gone, just a remnant, and that remnant yard looks pretty good. It makes a good throw rug, but it hardly compares to what we had that could have covered the entire stadium, you know. And let me just take a sip of my drink here to pace my throat. And so the duality, there are two, as you know, yesterday, I guess it was, I was presenting to you the two Zions, right? That there was two Zions. One is based on world domination. Well, I wouldn't trust anything Hitler said, John. But anyway, the Khazarians are Aryan. Okay, the Khazars are Aryan by nature, and that's pretty well established. But anyway, so there's two Zions, and one is about world domination and kicking everybody in the teeth, and then the true Zayon, correctly spelled Zayonn. There's your two N's again, for yonder, the yon, which is then symbolized as the sun, the great logo, and that is the light. And the true Zayon is in the light. It is with the light. It is the light that we all want to embrace and fall into. So that's the duality. We've got two types of Zion. One is true, one is false. And so Eshariel, and let's see where are we at here on the time. I'm just I want to before I get into this discussion, because I did that read to allow for a few more friends to come on, and I wanted to give all my energy to this presentation on Esau being Asha, and then more in that. So what I want to do right now is just go to a 3-minute musical interlude, and then I will be right back with the presentation on therealpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. It's the Forbidden History series, ladies and gentlemen, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. I'm Desert Owl. Glad you tuned in. Time to call a friend. I will be right back in 3 minutes. You did call your friends, didn't you? Thanks for doing that. After all, you wanted to know, didn't you? And welcome back to the Forbidden History series, ladies and gentlemen. And want to welcome our new listeners out there. And just to qualify, okay, real quick, the word Jew came into existence right around 1,000 years ago. Okay, the word Jew never existed prior to that. And the Jews, the Khazar Jews out of Turkey, out of the Caucasus Mountains, the Black Sea region, a warfaring class at the time that served the New World Order of their day. They are the ones that proliferated all of Europe, the Baltic area, Poland, Germany, Germany actually implies Khazar, and they are the banking Jews of today. And so they are what is known as pseudo-Israel. They are claiming to be something that no longer exists. It ceased. Israel, Esha-Re'el, the correct way to say it, existed. It ceased to exist in 730 BC, and it's in the scriptures. It's plain as black and white. Okay, so they supplemented they could, since these people control the world, as we know they do with banking and with the Vatican, they also control publishing. And so literally they took over our scriptures and put their names, Adonai, which is India backwards, Angel, which is Anglo-Saxon, and Jew, which they supplemented for Judean or Israel. Okay, so it's the ultimate shell game and trickery that they played on us, because they are dominant in the world, but only in a superficial way, because we know that the great spirit of light, Yeshua, is the true dominant power, and they actually have no power other than that which he has allowed them to accomplish on this planet. He allows them to do their job. They're the scapegoat. They're going to dirt, and because of the fire that they create for us within life, it's compelling for us to transcend, but we have to unravel the great mystery. Okay, so Esha-Re'el, therefore, is the correct, because as I've pointed out to you, the letter I is a corruption. Letter I and the letter J are both corruptions. In Old English, the alphabet had two I's. Okay, one was a consonant, one was a vowel. There's your duality, just like the letter A, as you've heard me tell. There are two. The first letter A of the alphabet, the original alphabet, is a consonant. The vowel was spoken. Okay, vowel was spoken, and so so the first royal light is Esha-Re'el. Right. Okay. Very good, John. Thank you. So Asia Minor is still revealing the essence of that word, the original word, not Israel, is as in Isis, Mitzrayim again, okay? Not ISIS, Israel, okay? It is Esha-Re'el. Obviously, the A would be first, because the A is the first letter of the alphabet. The A represents the light that shines down. It's the symbol of creation. Naturally, the A would be dominant. The I is the blind. And also symbol of the blind goddess Isis. You see? Isis. You've got to see the Shavors. You've got to hear the burning swords of fire. They're speaking, but nobody's attuned to it because they don't teach this. And therefore, they're playing the ultimate shell game, and we have to be able to see and read it for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. So Esha-Re'el is Asia Minor. What is Asia Minor? You know, because they call that part of the world the Levant, Palestine, what they call Israel today, pseudo-Israel, Syria, all of that is Asia Minor, right? What does minor mean? I used to think it meant small, you know, like a miner, but no. Why did they call children miners? Because they were the first ones they put in the mine, because those holes were so small, and they went in there with the light. It wasn't, the child was not the miner. It was what he was holding in his hand. It was the light. It's the menor. The menor, meaning Asia Minor, meaning the light of Asia. The light, and what is Asia? Asia is the royal eye. The royal eye is the light up in the sky, you see? And so these are metaphors, these are symbols, and they then create pictures in what we call words, the Shavors, okay? So I just wanted to back up because it started out yesterday when we were talking about Edom. And I pointed out that Edom was correctly Adam. Adam, which is one letter different than Adam. And what does Edom, correctly Adam, means? It means the judgment of the eye. And is that not what our first parents had to do? They had to make a judgment about would they do this thing or would they not do this thing? So it's the eye is looking. And what was the message in the story? It said, well, when Kaiva looked upon it and saw that it was very appealing to the eye and a thing to be desired. You see, the judgment of the eye. Therefore, she took hold of it. And that's the rest of that story is a story for another day. And I already did that in those first 2 weeks, starting in June 1st, you know, or June 21st, excuse me, on this new series of the Forbidden History. So Edom is Edom, and it means the judgment of the eye. And so then we went into, and by the way, Esha Rael, therefore means the first royal eye and light of the first royal eye, the light of enlightenment, okay? The first royal eye. So Asia Minor, why? Because it was the center of the earth. Jerusalem was the citadel that was representing the one deity, where all other cultures around the world were, they observed more than one deity. Okay, and so that's where that's at, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it's the first royal eye, and so this is all goes back then to the original thought. You see, we have to see and read with their eyes, the way they spoke and the way they talked, right? Just like when I pointed out that when somebody is smiling back then, they'd say, "Why is your sun shining?" Or "Why is your A shining?" Your eyes. Why is your eyes a light? Because the original word for eye is A. A-Y, 2 vowels and no consonants. Okay, just like E-Y-E, interestingly enough, is all vowels and no consonants. E-Y-E, you see? But it's the corruption. It's the switch out. So see and read it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So Esau, so right here on the program yesterday morning, and I guess I had never, dissected the word Esau to my memory. And so when I built it back up, I said, okay, the E is the A. Write this down because you're going to want to follow it, all right? E is the A, and then the S has to have an H. So it's A, sh. There we got, and then the rest part, I realized then, because I thought it might be a shoe, the 2 O's, but after the program yesterday, I looked at it and I realized it was Aisha. Yeah, of course, Aisha. And now there's a story here. There's a story that I had never seen before, and it literally pulls together everything I've been sharing with you over the last, several weeks here now, okay? So get ready. And also, even like, I'll give you one more example, okay? The word Elizabeth. I looked at Elizabeth last night, and it's El Eshava. El Eshava is the original, okay? Without getting in, let's see, El is for the enlightenment, and because she was enlightened, was she not, when she found out she had a baby, or she was pregnant, right? Her husband Zachariah, the high priest in the temple, and she's barren, and so her title is El Eshava. And so El Esha, A-S-H-A, and then V-A-T, and Va means the serpent, and so it's the V-A-T, as you know, is serpent, Va, and so it's the enlightened eye. It's the enlightened royal eye of the serpent, in essence. Okay, the enlightened royal eye of the serpent, because remember, we are the serpent, and that's what they didn't want us to know. So she's enlightened because now she's finally, after all these years, going to bring forth the baby. You see, so she, El Eshava, represents Israel. That because she wanted to have a baby. Esha wanted to bring forth the Messiah, the Mashiach, all along, but couldn't do it. Until finally, at the end of time, at the end of the world, as it says in Hebrews, 9:26, at the end of the world, at the end of time, of that age, finally the woman is going to bring forth. And that's who El Eshava, Elizabeth, in the corruption, El Eshava represents. So realize that Esha is a prime root, okay? Esha, the letter A, is the symbol of the sun, the symbol of light, the symbol of vision. And then the Shah is the royal, just like the Shah of Iran, the Persian. You see, they preserved it in that culture, and it has more meaning. I wrote it down. I got to go find the card now, but there's more meaning to it. But it's the royalty, and it's a perfect anagram. You read it frontwards, backwards. It's the same word, Esha. You always have to flip over the SH or the SH is always, SH, not HS. It's SH. So that doesn't change. And so you can see, so get the picture now. So Esau is the firstborn of Yitzhak, right? And good morning, Deplorable. Good to have you. And so Esau, let's look at him for a moment, okay? He's the firstborn. So he's going to receive the inheritance. He's going to receive all the blessings that came through Abraham, and then through Yitzhak. Now remember, Yitzhak had something going on that was pretty interesting. He was blind. He was blind. Why? Because, let me take another sip here. Okay. Because, let me get on track. Okay, hang on. Let me focus here. So Esau was blind. So Abraham represents the father of light, right? He represents, and in the picture, Brahm means the sun. So he represents the father of light, and the sun is the great logo. And then Yitzhak, who was willing to be a sacrifice, remember? He was willing to go on the altar to sacrifice his flesh, but it wasn't meant for him to do that. But nonetheless, he represents the flesh because the flesh needs to be sacrificed. And so he goes on and lives. And then through him comes Esau and Yaakov, twins, the duality. The duality. And so now let's put his title back together, because he was going to get all the blessings, remember? The blessings and the inheritance. And so if we rebuild Esau correctly, it's Esha. And now that means the royal eye. Well, let's ask the question, was he a royal eye? What was his trade? He was a hunter. What do you have to do when you're hunting? You have to have a good eye, right? So he was the royal eye, and it was symbolized by the fact that he was a great hunter. He was a marksman. He went out there to get that sacrifice for his father to cook a meal in no time flat, because he's a royal eye. He's of a royal lineage, right? But he had already sold himself out. He had already married Canaanite women. He married Canaanite women and was an offense unto his mother. And so Yaakov, first off, Esau was willing. He was willing to sell his inheritance for a bowl of porridge, right? He sold his inheritance for a bowl of food because he was so hungry that he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait. And so he said, what good would it be to me anyway, because I'm near death, so please give me some. He didn't care. Just like he married the Canaanite woman, he didn't care. And so then what happens is in the great mystery, when the blessing is about to come, he tells his son Esha, go out and get me my venison and come back and cook it, and then I will give you the blessing. And so Yaakov, which means seed of light, is then told by his mother, hey, I'm going to cook some food up real quick. You're going in. You're going to get the blessing. He says, are you kidding me? And she said, no, you're going to do this, okay, because you deserve it. You're the intellectual. You're the one who cares. You're the one, that I love. That's the mother. See, that's that woman again. The mother, like Elizabeth. The woman is representing something in this story, always. And so Yaakov then disguises himself as Esha, the royal eye, okay? And when he goes in, Yitzhak says, whoa, let me, smell your coat. Whoa, smells like the field of my son. And let me touch your hand. Oh, hairy, just like, your arms are hairy. But he said, but yet it is the voice of Yaakov. You see? So there's the duality again, because one is of the earth, and then one is the voice. the voice is what it's all about, right? The message, the ability to hear that which is unheard. And so the seed of light goes in stealthily. The guy with the has actually a power name, the seed of light, Yaakov, goes in and gets the blessing, and then he has to to flee. So when he's coming back 20 years later, and he has officially acquired the inheritance from his brother and through a transaction, and then he receives the blessing from his father. On his way back, he's about a day away from meeting Aisha, and so he's struggling all night long and he's wrestling with a Malak. A royal Malak comes down, who is Yeshua, by the way, is Yeshua in this drama that's played out. And Yaakov is saying, I'm not letting you go. The Malak says, look, the sun's getting ready to come up. I got to go. And he says, no, I'm not letting you go till you give me a blessing. And so he says, okay, your name is now no longer Yaakov. It is Aisha Real. So if the firstborn received the title of Aisha, and then Yaakov ultimately takes it all from his brother, who was not worthy of it, when he's wrestling with the Malak, what happens? He receives the title that was due to his brother. He even receives that title of Aisha, not Esau, the corruption by the Kaisars, but Aisha, the royal eye. That's what Yaakov receives. He receives the title of Aisha Re'el. Aisha, the royal enlightenment, you see? And so that's, once I saw that Esau was Aisha yesterday, it all opened up, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a total mind blower, how the story unfolded. And there's more to the story, okay? There is definitely more. And but I can tell I'm losing my voice already this morning. And so I'm not going to, go into that. But remember, the birthright belonged to his brother. But Yaakov received the inheritance and the blessing. And not only that, but he received the title of his brother. Doesn't that make sense? It's all about title, right? You can go to England and you could buy the title of an estate. And when you do, you even get a new name, right? You get a new name. So it's rather profound, ladies and gentlemen, what just unfolded here by bringing back the original thought, the original diction. You see, so wow, I'm just pinching myself because this was a key element in the puzzle, and after all these years to have it unfold like this, especially on the broadcast yesterday, was really, really powerful. So I hope you're getting the picture. I hope you can. Okay, Mew Mew saying she gets it. Wonderful, Mew Mew. Way to go. Yeah. They tricked us with the words, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they built a university outside the Vatican called the College of Abbreviators. They knew they had to change the words. Otherwise, we'd get the picture. We could be set free. Instead, they got us stuck in the mud and in the slime and in the dirt. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to another musical interlude. Then when I get back, we'll do some words that kill, and I'll probably be wrapping it up for the morning with my voice going out today. So, okay, so stand by. We'll be right back. You're tuned in right here to the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. Good morning, Jenny. Good to have you. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And I forgot one more important element in this right here, okay? And it is that so who did Esau, correctly Asha, represent in this story? He actually represents Israel, correctly Asha. And so it's a direct parallel. Esau / Asha sold out his birthright, and is not that what Israel Asha did? Right, by the time it was 730 BC, they sold out their birthright. You see, it was a prediction of what the entire tribe, after they came out of Mitzrayim, did. They went and they made the columns with the altar, and they passed their children through the fire, and they sacrificed, and they did the thing they were told not to do. Don't make columns. Do not make columns. Symbols of the male erection, and don't. And Solomon was the one who started it, because he married all those pagan wives, right? And the first one he marries was from Mitzrayim / Egypt. So Esau, who is Asha, then represents the tribe that was destined to fall, because they were only used by Yahweh as a picture, as a symbol of something that was soon to come. Okay, Mulberry and Nagar from yesterday, if you have time. I'm not sure what the question is. Do you need to call in? You want to call in? Okay. I'm looking for your response. So, been listening but driving. Good morning, 10,000. Good to have you. Be careful driving, okay? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We now have a picture. Why? Because you see, and so what does Yaakov then represent? If Asha, who is incorrectly Esau, represents Asha, and then Asha is annihilated, then who does Yaakov represent? Well, it's in his title. It's seed of light. He's the seed, and that's what we become in Yeshua. We receive the blessings. We receive the inheritance, you see. All the promises that go back to Abraham, we receive them. We are seed of light. Yeshua, that was the big question that the Sanhedrin and the high priest asked Yeshua when it said Son of God. That was a code. It's not God. God's European. God's the Pope. He was asked, all right, because they got him in that midnight trial. And they said, tell us plainly, are you the seed of the sun, the seed of light? And he says, I am. You see, he came down from the light of the sun, where everything else ultimately came down from, but then fell into darkness, dense matter. And so Yaakov, look at what happened to Yaakov. He has to escape for his life from his brother who wants to kill him. And then, and how does he come back? He comes back with several wives and a dozen, children, 13 of them actually. The 13th is for the lunar. 12 sons, 1 girl. The girl symbolizes the lunar. And so he comes back, and his brother doesn't kill him, even though he assembled an army of a bunch of them. It was, I think, a few hundred. And so you've got to read the storyline, because it's telling us where we are in our spiritual journey. It is for us to see and read for ourselves, to interpret the meaning of the words and the names and their titles, and also the story associated with the titles and the names. I've been doing this all my life, ladies and gentlemen, literally, when nobody's talking about it. The other words I was into already, but I never, I guess, took a close enough look at this one until yesterday when we were doing it on the program. And I was only looking at the letter E being a corruption for A, Then all of a sudden it just opened up and we get a whole story out of it. So thank you, Father above. I'm pinching myself because this is prima facie evidence on the game they played on us. Prima facie. And, you know, like I said, they had to create an entire university outside the Vatican called the College of Abbreviators, run by the Jesuit Curii, to put the cure in your eye, put you under the spell, babe. Put you under the spell because you don't know how to spell. Because they educated you. And what education means is not what they taught you, but what they removed. What they removed from your curriculum. They never talk to you about the correct way of interpreting literature, reading from the ancient format, which is still relevant to today. Not to mention, you know, all the other tricks and the codes they put in everything, you know, and not to mention they didn't teach you about the law. They didn't teach you true science. They taught you nothing. Just like, you know, I did the presentation in my first 2 weeks, right? I showed you that positive is negative and negative is positive. They reversed it. And also that the 4 elements is not, you know, air, water, earth, and fire. Fire was a big lie. This fire is not an element. Fire is destruction of elements. It's the light. It's air, earth, water, and light. And they took the light out of the 4 elements. That's the primary element, is the light. Get the picture of the scam they played, of those dirty rats. That's right. Those dirty rats. Why am I dyslexic? Okay, so Mew Mew, you just asked me a question, I think, right? Let me see here. Okay. You can tell I'm getting excited about this. It's just amazing. You know, Yeshua is the revealer. Like I say, he revealed it. You saw him reveal it starting yesterday morning, okay? I was just going for the ride. I was just trying to, you know, show the letters, you know, and I didn't see it coming, and boom. Okay, thank you, Ninja. All right, so Mew Mew. I love that. Mew Mew. You mentioned that you had more to say when Alan said nada mahar, and you said nagash to cut, but you said there was much more. Well, the nagash, right? You see, he was. I love Alan, you know, for all of his efforts, and like my point was that we all don't have, you know, sometimes exact knowledge, and so he was going in a different direction with the naga, and I certainly didn't want to, you know, debate that nor, you know, interrupt his, you know, the close of his presentation. And so whenever, you know, I bring somebody on to do an interview, I don't always necessarily, you know, going to agree with everything that they present, but I want to hear it. You know, I need to hear things, you know, from other perspectives and what other people are doing. And it's not, there's no need, there's no argument. You know, you see, I clearly, you know, can present, as you know, and maybe you didn't hear those first presentations I did, Mew Mew, but the naga is the abbreviated word. Remember, they abbreviate all words. It's nagash, and nagash is the wise serpent. The serpent is what the nagash was. Adam. He was the wise serpent. That's why, like Yeshua was known as the Nazareh. There's the word, you know, form, that which came down. You know, the Pharaoh sat on the sun throne. Okay, which why did he have a cobra in his hat? He has a cobra in his hat. Good morning, Trish. Good to have you. He's got a cobra in his hat because he's on the sun throne. The cobra means my support. Cobra means my co-support. Bra, all women know bra means support. Cobra means my co-support. What co-support? The light, the sun. He's on the sun throne representing Yahweh in a pagan tradition we call Egypt, but it's Mitzrayim. And so the Naga, it's all about the serpent. Like I just pointed out, in the correct spelling of Elizabeth is Ele Shava. Ele Shava means the enlightenment of the royal eye of the serpent. The enlightenment. You're a serpent. Your flesh is the serpent. When Yeshua went into wilderness for 40 days, what was he tempted by? His ego, his flesh. Come on, you know you can make this stone a piece of bread. You're starving to death. Come on, do it. But he wouldn't do it for himself, but he did it for 5,000 people, didn't he? He would do it for 5,000 people, but he wouldn't do it for himself to save his life because he was being tested. And he had to conquer self, you see. So so I hope that helps you out a little bit, with that, Mew. Okay, it's just that we've been denied the true knowledge. I looked up the word serpent, in the Strong's, and I was astonished to find it said Naga. Well, how come then they don't translate it from the Yiddish Hebrew into the English, the hook, the anglers? You see, they're switching out words, just like when it all opened up to me is when I started suspecting that we were being lied to back when I was still in my 20s. And I said, okay, I'm going to go look up the word Adam and Eve, and I'm going to see what it says. And I was astonished to find that Eve was not in there. It was Kai. So the other half of her name was in the Strong's, and the first half that we received orally was not there. Same with Adam. I look in there, and the word Adam wasn't there in the Strong's concordance. It was Dick, for diction, for dictate, for dictum. You see? And because why? It said he named all things. While Yeshua was making all things on earth, Adam up there at the throne of the Son, mispronounced as Eden, which is correctly the atom. The Son is the macrocosm of the atom, a symbol of the great atom of creation, which are the microcosm. And he named all things. You see, he gave the diction for what things were called. That's why when he comes down and he wakes up in the garden, comes out of Eden, wakes up in the garden, and immediately, he's going to pull a trick on Eve, Kava correctly, and say, baby, if we do this thing, it won't hurt. It's going to be great, And not only will it allow us to reproduce ourselves like all the other creation, all other creatures, but it will, because when it said live forever, that was the priesthood's trick. It didn't say live forever, but to duplicate ourselves without number like the stars of heaven. Okay? And not only that, but it can also make us like creators, like the great Elohim. It can make us Elohim like the great Elohim, creators. Yeah, that was the power they had in them to duplicate themselves and bring forth a civilization called the Aryans, you see? And this is what they've been hiding from us. This is the big lie that they've been hiding from us, ladies and gentlemen, the smoking gun of who we are, where we are, when we are, and why we are, okay? So you got to go back and start on June 21st, listen to those first 2 weeks, and you will have the, the extended version of what I'm giving to you in short order, ladies and gentlemen, okay? It's a big story, okay? They worked overtime for thousands of years to cover all of this trail, and the Heavenly Father, Yeshua, is the revealer. He is my tree of knowledge, and he's the one bringing it back, okay? He's the one bringing it back, not me. He is. And as I said right here, let me pull out the lost writing that came out of Tibet, okay? And right in here, it says this is another gospel that did not get filtered or corrupted by the West. It came out of Tibet on the Silk Road Trail, and it's called the Gospel of the Perfect Life. And in here, it says, but there will arise, this is Yeshua talking, and he told them they would sit, I'm going to go back one verse, and you will sit on 12 thrones and send forth light and truth to all the 12 tribes of Israel. In other words, to all the world, going out to all the world, because they're lost now. There's no more Israel, unless it's referring to the spiritual Israel, you see. The Israel. I don't know what the trees of mulberry means. You've been saying that several times. I'm sorry, you'd have to call in, but I have no idea, what the mulberry is all about, okay? I'm sorry, but I moved forward pretty quick, and I may forget what we were talking about. Okay, so you will sit on 12 thrones after you receive the Spirit, and I will be with you even to the end of the world. I will be with you, okay? But there will arise after you men of perverse minds, who will through ignorance or through craft suppress many things which I have spoken to you. Okay, there you go. That's a fact. And lay to me things that I have not taught, sowing weeds among the perfect wheat, which I have given you to sow into all the world. And then the truth, and then this is when the truth of Yahweh will endure the contradiction of sinners, for this is how it has been, and this is how it will be again. But the time comes when these things which they have hidden away will once again be revealed and made known, and the truth will make free those who were bound in darkness. Okay? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's the will of the great breath of the wind and fire, Yahweh and Yeshua, to restore that which they have destroyed. And since he's the white serpent, when they're the black serpent, he's the white Naga, they're the black Nagash, who come down and gashed us with their fangs of poison. Okay? He wants it restored, and that's what we're doing here with the original thought, okay? The Indo-Germanic Aramaic mother tongue. It is based on the symbol. The reason the Father has allowed me to be able to read the code is because the code is based on the Aramaic, and it is based on the symbol, the primary root of each letter, telling a story and then compounding them into parent roots of 2- and 3-letter forms. It is an exact science, ladies and gentlemen. You can learn it. You can know it. It's not like, magic or presto, magical, pulling it out of thin air. It is a science. And as you know, I've been showing it to you on the board, and I'm about to get a device that's going to allow me then to draw the pictures right on the screen for you and not have to use that whiteboard anymore and do a better job. Okay. So we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. And then the final verse on this other gospel is, woe, the judgment belongs to the time when the spirit of the world will enter into the pure church. Okay, the spirit of the world will enter into the pure church. Do we see that? And my doctrines and precepts will be made void. Void. His doctrine, his precepts will be made void through the corruptions of men and of women. They may have been Eastern Star, could be. Sounds like Eastern Star. They represent India. Actually, that's why it's called Eastern Star. And woe to the world when the light is hidden. Judgment will be upon the world when the light is hidden. Isn't that what's happening right now? Judgment coming upon the world. They destroyed the ozone layer. We're going down. We can't fix it. Judgment belongs to the world when the light is hidden. Judgment belongs to the world when these things will be. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You got your lessons for today. I'm all talked out, but I do want to thank you. Let's see, we got, I think the seed is the faith, but mulberry is like God or the light itself. Well, mole, okay, the word mole means at the center. Like a double doors. I used to, build houses, and the double door always had a mole in the middle. And even in the movie Matrix, after Neo gets arrested, when they're showing all the big skyscrapers in that first movie, there was a sign on one of the skyscrapers that said Mulfe. Mulfe, you see right there, and it meant the center of the woman. And so mulberry, well, B-E-R would be B-A-R, so it would mean born of the center. Ray, R-Y would be an abbreviation for light. So it could mean born at the center of light. That's what mulberry could literally mean in the code. I just read it for you right there. But, it's not enough, that I can comment on at this time. Okay. So, yeah, and the sun, they put a false sun up there, a Luciferian sun reflector, right? At the same time. Thanks, Ninja. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in trouble. But the good news is that Yeshua is here right now. I don't know why people are, caught up in the false analysis that he's not here. Okay, he rose from the dead. What part of raising from the dead don't people get? I call him the comeback kid. If there ever was, what greater comeback could there be than rising from the dead? Okay, didn't the scripture say they would change times and seasons? Well, they changed times and seasons. They got everybody waiting for him to come back when he rose from the dead. And what did he say when he was taken up to the throne of the Son before 100 of his friends up in Galilee, because Jerusalem was no longer relevant? He said, behold, I am with you always. I am with you always, even unto the end of time, to the end of the earth. So my elder brother, my tree of knowledge, Yeshua, has been communicating to me all of my life. He's not coming back. He's here. And that's another part of the great lie of history, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, you got it here first. I'm Desert Owl telling you, okay? Let me breathe. Yeah, it's rough. You know, I need to get some of that nutritional stuff from my voice. I can tell I'm just getting too old to do this anymore at 62, okay? But you want to know the future, you need to look for the Forbidden History. And we're right here twice a day, 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Time on therealpublicradio.net. It's what they didn't want you to know. And we're going to tell it straight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you this evening. Heavenly Father willing. Thank you, Teresa. Good to have you. Love to you too. The light is shining, ladies and gentlemen. That's the good news. The light still shines. And it's our light. Thank you, Lou. Good to have you. Thank you, Lynn. Be well. Way to go, Ninja. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Trish. Peace and love, sweetheart.